Hello again, fellow quilters. This week I'd like to share with you how I made this lovely Christmas quilt. Traditional colours, traditional patterns, but I think it looks really lovely and it was quite quick to make. So if you'd like to see how I got on with this, please continue watching. I am very excited today. Let me show you. I will jump straight in. Look at this. This has just arrived in the post. As you can see, there are Santas and trees, and I'm going to make a Christmas throw. Now it's the 18th of November, so I haven't very much time. It can't be anything complicated. But if you look closely at these squares, so if you see the tree image, and then you take from corner to corner these little cornerstones on all of the blocks, those blocks measure exactly 5.5 inch square. Now that's just a given, because if I make 3-inch half square triangles to go around the outside, star points, 5.5 inches is the perfect size for the centre of a variable star. So I bought a metre, it's 45 inches wide. I bought a metre length of this fabric, and on the fabric there are 40 complete squares. So I'm thinking if I make a 6x6, I'll need 36 of the squares, then I should get a nice size throw. I just want it to go on the back of the sofa over Christmas. So I'm thinking roughly 60 inches square. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut out all of these images and I'll see how many I have of each. There are only 3 different ones. There's a tree with a deep red background, a tree with a bright red background, and all the Santa images are the same. So somehow I'll put them together in a nice pattern, and then I'm thinking I'll have a scrappy points that go around the outside of the variable star in green and red, and I'm thinking I might even put a little golden pinwheel in the corner. So what I'm going to do is cut these out, and then I'll draft up a little design plan and I'll get back to you. See how that goes. I'm really excited this year for Christmas. In fact, I'll show you something else. Some of the fabric that I'm thinking of for the star points will be scrappy, and I'll show you what scraps I've got. I think I'm going to start calling these PSs, process scraps, and I process my scraps in strips like that, which are the width of that ruler, and I keep them in these plastic wallets in a big box in some sort of collection. So these are all the darks and the greeny colours, blues and greens, and I'm thinking one day I'd love to make a log cabin. I still think log cabins are my favourite quilt blocks. And in this one I have some paler ones, so I don't think I'll be able to use very much out of these PSs for this quilt, although there are some 3-inch squares, they may come in handy. But in this bag there were some leftover pieces that were large. I haven't processed them because I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do with those. I was tempted to put them in the log cabin, but now I'm glad I haven't, because these could make some other points in the red. Quite happy for it to be scrappy. So I've got some red squares and some paler squares. That's a cream with a little gold on. That might come in useful. And I have some of the same design, which is white with green wreaths. So that might look nice in the background. And then I have 2 of those. And then it looks like some more red. So I'm thinking scrappy points on the stars. Okay. So I'll cut them out, do the design, and I'll get back to you. See you soon. And there we are. I've cut up the fabric. So I have 20 of the Santas, I have 8 of the red, and I have 12 of the dark red. background to the trees. And so from those squares, 5.5 inches, I'm going to select 36 and I'll show you the design I've chosen. And there we are. It's very simple. It is variable stars, so the centre part is the feature fabric, and then there are just the points, and in the corners I've put a half square triangle that when the blocks meet together you get a pinwheel. And so for the points in the pinwheels, in 4 3/4 inch squares I needed 48 of red fabric, 24 green, 25 gold. For the background I need 97 4 3/4 inch squares, and I need 44 3-inch squares, and then I need 36 feature squares, and I'll show you the fabric. So the 25 gold squares are all in this fabric, so there'll be unity to the quilt with the pinwheels, and the 97 cream background are a variation, so it's going to look scrappy. And then I have a selection of red with gold. They all feature little bits of gold, so I think that's very Christmassy, so they'll look nice. Again, I'm going to mix these all up so they're scrappy triangles. And so I've also worked out the blocks, and I'll put that on my community page as I usually do. All my centres are directional, and so that impacts where I put the half square triangles for the pinwheels. But if you're not using a directional fabric in the centre, you don't have to worry so much about that. As you may have noticed, there's no green yet. I didn't have any green that was suitable in my stash at all, so I have ordered some, and that will arrive tomorrow. And so today I've had enough. Everything's cut that I can cut, and tomorrow I will start sewing these half square triangles. However, in a few days from now, it's going to suddenly dawn on me that there's a much simpler way of putting this quilt together, and that's in 5.5 inch rows. So if you have a look here where the S is for the feature fabric, and I take all of that across, that's now row A, and then below we have pinwheels and squares all the way along B, and so on all the way down. But instead of doing all of these complicated squares, I think it would be much simpler to make 5.5 inch squares and join them in rows. Well, I've just had a delivery, and as you can see, it's my fat quarter bundle. There's 5 pieces in there, and they're all the same sort of forest green shade. So let's open them up and we'll have a look and see what the designs are. Well, this collection is by John Loudon, so we have some lovely little snowflakes, some stars, some golden spray, some holly. This one's my favourite, like a soft fern. Okay, so that's 5 different designs, all of them lovely. So I'm going to press those and we'll start cutting. I have started to put the 4 3/4 inch squares together, and they're all pinned up for the different parts of the quilt. So I'll get those done and then we can start sewing. Well, the sun's shining. I've just come back from a beautiful winter's walk, and now I'm going to put all of these rows together. So we have 24 red outsides, half square triangles with a cream on point square in the centre, and we have 24 of the red at the bottom and the green at the top, and we have 12 of the green on the outside with the pale background on point square in the centre. I have 36 feature fabrics, 4 cornerstones, 20 3-inch squares joined together, 24 of the red points for the stars with a cream background, and 25 gold and cream pinwheels. If you're going to use this row method, then have this diagram close to hand, because you do need to keep watching it. And then for each row I just lay them out like so. So I'm sewing, pairing these together and then joining them, and they come together really quickly. Well, now I have completed all of the strips, and I've also completed the top and the bottom edging. Those are the red points for the variable stars, and I'm just going to put some edging just around here, just to preserve these points for when the binding goes on. So these are my scraps, and they are 1 3/8 wide, so I keep them for future log cabins. So I'm going to use some of those now. And I've added that border, so there we go. The points are nice and pointy on the star. And so it's just a matter of joining the rows together. So this is the bottom one, and I'll work my way to the top. And I'll show you what that looks like. Well, it's coming together really nicely. So I am just doing a back stitch on the end of each row because there will be some weight there. And I'm just nesting the seams as I go. And everything seems okay so far. And so the only thing I need to really be careful of is that the directional fabrics are pointing the right way. In this quilt, I wanted to use up lots of my odds and ends. So I've got some scrappy pieces and I combined that with this feature fabric and then made it look scrappy. I had some fat quarters, but I wanted to distribute the designs, and I added to the design by just segregating some of the colours. So on the outside there are these on point squares which are sort of a taupe, and then this is an off-white, a cream, but it's quite bright, and that's white. And then inside there's another taupe, and then these pinwheels on the outside ring, they are gold with an off-white, whereas in the inside they're a gold with these green wreaths. Now at this point it's quite subtle. I'm not sure whether you'll be able to pick that up yet, but I'm hoping when I construct the whole quilt you'll be able to see these little design elements. Well, there we go. That is the top finished. I think she looks beautiful. You've got these lovely patterns of the golden pinwheels, and then these on point squares, they really stand out. To be honest, when it's on the back of the sofa, you're not going to see this overall pattern because you'll only see small amounts. But let me take you further in and show you the little details. So when you're actually sitting on the sofa and this is over you or behind you or next to you, it's these small details that are going to catch your eye. So you've got these lovely little Santas, this Christmassy greens and the lovely reds. So it's all put together scrappy. I never bothered where the points went, just tried to put different one together, but sometimes that doesn't work out, but it's okay. Really, the difference in the taupe and the white is hardly noticeable. Okay, so now I'm going to piece all of the batting scraps I have together to form one piece to make the inside of this quilt. And I think in the back of my airing cupboard somewhere I have a Christmas duvet that I no longer use, so I'm going to back it with that. And that's the backing, a sort of Nordic print design, but I think the colours complement it really well. It's nice and soft. And that's it in its place. I think that looks nice and festive. I will put some Christmas cushions on when it's time, but at the moment it's a little bit early. We're in the last week of November, but when the tree is in the corner and everything is sparkly, I think that will look like Christmas. Well, thank you very much for joining me on this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. Hope you might be inspired to make one similar. You have got time. Thanks again for watching. Take good care of yourselves. Bye.